Hello, namaste, and welcome to Breakout with Abba. That's me, and thank you very much for watching. This show is committed to bring to you exceptional game changers, people who have been there, done that, mavericks who have made changes, thought transformers, and people who are now willing to share with us their insights, their learnings, and give us the rules game so that we know what to do with our lives and what to break out of and what to break into. My guest today is a very special lady. You can see her on the right side of the screen where I'm standing. Beautiful morning she is in. I can see in the background she is. This is a lovely morning at her end, and she is recognized as the voice of child-centered divorce. She's a divorce and parenting coach as well as the founder of Child-Centered Divorce Network for Parents. Also the author of the internationally acclaimed ebook, How Do I Tell the Kids About a Divorce? Now, this lady is doing a very, very special kind of work, very different from what you would probably ever heard of, but something that is really, really important because a lot of people do not want to speak about it. There is not enough information out there. There's not enough people talking about it. And this lady, her name is Rosalin Sedacca. Welcome to the show, Rosalin.
Oh, thank you, Abba. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you so much for your time. It's very early in the morning your end, is it?
Yes, it is.
It is. So thank you very much for coming in so early because, and thanks to technology, we are talking from two different ends of the world. So I'm quite glad that you could make it. I'm so happy. I'm so happy you're here. So Rosalin, I want you to tell our viewers something about your work and your early influences, because I understand that you're doing this very special work around people who are wanting to get divorced, what to do with their lives, what to do after the divorce, before the divorce, and what to do with the kids. And you use this special, method, plus you use very basic stuff like love, and you've created methodologies where people can be helped. A lot of people don't talk about it. What do you think? Why is it so, and what are you doing in that field?
Well, I am the founder of the Child-Centered Divorce Network for Parents, and we are a resource center for information before, during, and long after divorce to help parents especially. If you get a divorce and you're not a parent, you can move on much more easily.
Right.
But when you have children involved, everything is much more complex, much more serious, and the aftermath is the rest of your life as a parent. So what I want to do is help parents make the best possible decisions on behalf of themselves as well as their children. And the origins of all of this was my own life, my own divorce, when my son was 11 years old, and I was traumatized about breaking the news to him and about what was going to happen, whether I was going to psychologically impact him and create some of the headlines that all of us have seen around the world. And so I created a special way of breaking the divorce news to my son using a personalized photo album and text that shared key messages that parents need to share with their children. And it was very successful for me, and I went on to co-parent my son with my former husband. And when my son was a grown young man, one day he said to me, "You know, Mom, you and Dad did a really good job with the divorce situation. Most of my friends are so angry at their parents or even hate their parents after the divorce. And I am just so grateful that I feel differently about it all." And as a mother, I just sighed a sigh of deep relief and said, wow, I have something to share with other parents. And it was only after that point that I went and created the Child-Centered Divorce Network, wrote my book, created my programs, and started coaching other families.
Wow, that's inspirational, because I know so many people and I hear so many stories about divorces and children getting affected, which is obvious because they how do they cope with, because I think individuals get divorced, married people get divorced. I think parents cannot get divorced in the minds of a kid. So I think hats off to you for being able to do that. Tell me more about your whole your you founded this child-centered divorce network. What kind of people you have worked with? Are there any specific things that people can do to reach out to you? And tell us about where we can find this information. I believe you have your own talk show as well, which is a Divorce View talk show and a podcast.
Yes.
So, and you write for Huffington Post. You are also an advisor to various websites and blogs, etc. And because this is such specialized information and such personalized way of doing things, that I believe it'll be useful to a lot of people. So just tell us wherever you are available, wherever they can see your work, wherever they can see what you're doing.
Okay. Well, anyone can go online to childcentereddivorce.com and find our website. And on the website, first of all, there's a free ebook on post-divorce parenting, which is really, really important, because the most important challenge if you're a parent is co-parenting after the divorce. The divorce is only the beginning of the situation. Then you have years and years ahead as your children grow to see if you can do the very best job you can as a co-parent.
Right.
And we want to make sure everyone has the tips and the insights and the advice from myself and other divorce experts around the world to get them on track and keep them that way. In addition, I have expert interviews with wonderful divorce experts around the world as well. And I have a weekly e-zine with articles and information, so parents are continually in the loop and getting the information they need. And I do coaching on a number of different levels, one-on-one coaching via Skype or phone, as well as group coaching programs and other digital courses that you can get on co-parenting. And if you just click on the coaching button on the Child-Centered Divorce website, then you'll find various options, the best way to fit your needs and adapt to whatever your issues are. And what we try to do, first and foremost, is educate parents about how they can be the best possible parent for their children during the divorce process and long after the process, and avoid some of the most serious mistakes. Would you like to discuss some of those mistakes? Because I think those are crucial areas where people innocently go wrong and affect their children in ways that are not
Of course.
positive for the children.
Right. I think, yeah, because I would really want to hear that, and I'm sure people would want to know, because I come from the side of the world, and I'm from India. We don't talk about these things. You know, we still don't talk about these things, and there are many divorces that happen over here, but people don't, we still conservative when it comes to talking about ourselves or these kind of things. It's a little bit of a social thing where people don't like to speak about it. So I'm sure people would like to know from you how we can actually go out and speak about these things, number one. Number two, you're talking about these mistakes that you think there's so many preconceived notions about what a divorce is like and what it could be like, you know, but I think it's a whole lot of an emotional upheaval and a roller coaster for people involved, both the man and wife and the kids and the families. So if I were to ask you what kind of things, what kind of mistakes people should avoid in a situation like this, if it does come to this point, what should they be doing and what mistakes they should not be doing?
Okay. Well, we want to put ourselves in our children's shoes, because the world looks very different for a 4-year-old and a 14-year-old. And we want to understand the experience at whatever age and stage they're at, and also understand that your children are going to be growing. So the situation today is going to look different for them in 2 years and 4 years and 8 years. But you're going to be parenting for the rest of your life, even when they're grown adults. So you want to keep in mind that children have a natural allegiance to both parents. They innately love both parents. And unless your other parent is an actual criminal, someone who's doing something that is endangering the well-being of your children, you don't have the right to keep your children from their other parent because you are angry, because you are hurt. because the children are hurt by that, and they don't have a way of letting you know necessarily. They can't always communicate it.
Right.
Children, they feel tied to both parents, and if one parent badmouths the other parent,
right,
they are caught in a great bind. They are confused. They are anxious. They feel guilty. They feel shame. And they feel helpless to do anything about it. It destroys children psychologically and emotionally when they hear their parents bad-mouthing one another.
Right.
So you feel very justified in saying that your ex is a bad person or hurt you and harmed you. And what we have to do as parents is step above that and understand to our children, this is dad, this is mom.
Right.
And we have to speak respectfully. So if you're angry, vent to your friends, vent to a therapist, vent into a pillow, but don't share information with your children. And that also includes, don't share adult information with children because they're helpless to change it. Right. A lot of times parents will use their children as confidants, and they'll explain that mom or dad has a drinking problem or a drug problem, or there was an affair, adultery, and they get into all these details that adults have lots of trouble with. And this is very confusing and complex for adults. Laying that on children when it's really out of their realm to be able to do anything about it.
Right.
Robs them of their childhood. It is such a burden that you are destroying their childhood, and suddenly they are living with adult information weighing on their shoulders.
True.
Never a good thing. We don't want to harm our children. We want to vow that even if we have a divorce, we want our children to still have a childhood, have the innocence of childhood, be able to play, be able to love. So if you're talking to your child and the child says, oh, mommy, daddy and I did this when I was visiting with him, you don't want to make negative comments and make the child feel guilty or afraid to share happy times with you.
Right.
Or something that happened with their other grandparents. You want to be enlightened, and you want to take the high road, and you want to be happy for your children. That's all they want, is for you to be able to open yourself up to being happy for them.
Right.
And don't get them involved in the dark and dirty places of your divorce. So the studies have shown that the biggest and most damaging part of a divorce on children is conflict around them.
Right.
That means if you are fighting in any way within earshot of your children, even if it's on the phone or in another room, you are hurting them. It churns them up inside, and it makes them feel very depressed and helpless. And what children do when they're exposed to high conflict between their parents, even if it's long after the divorce, is that they either turn in or turn outward in negative ways. They either turn inward and get depressed and even suicidal in cases because they feel so helpless and the world is so dark for them. Or they bend forward and go outward and become aggressive, have problems in school, start bullying, start acting out, turning towards drugs, being aggressive. All of these things are symptoms of children who are saying, I need help, I'm sad, I'm depressed. And if they can't turn to their parents for help, they don't know what to do.
They have nowhere to go. Yes, I'm reminded of somebody in my family who did the same thing, despite being told not to, to the point that don't use the child for your to get your stuff going. Yes. So it's very unhealthy for the kid. So
it's so tempting. It's so tempting, and we feel so justified.
Yeah, I mean at that time I think it's anger, it's conflict, it's all those things, that emotions people run through. What you're talking about, Rosalin, I think it needs a high level of emotional intelligence to be able to gauge number one that what kind of conflict, I mean how are your kids going to be affected by this, and given that self-control is something that a lot of people are not very good at, especially in situations like this. So how do you suggest, I mean this is obviously very necessary to keep the kids' minds healthy and not make it difficult for them. But how do you suggest in the physical? I mean, through your coaching, I'm sure you must have met people and told them the methods or the ways in which people can actually go and do this. Because holding yourself back when something really so difficult happens, it's like a heartbreak for the parent as well. So how does one deal with that?
First of all, we need to remember you're not alone. Fortunately, today we have a world in which we can be talking to anyone in any corner of the planet.
Right.
And there is help out there like the Child Centered Divorce Network. So get the help online, and then we have a directory of people who are professionals and experts who are child-centered. When you're getting a divorce, the most important thing to remember if you have children is that you don't want an attorney who's going to get into litigation and get you into court. Not only is it very expensive, but it does not give the best outcome for two parents to be fighting together for months, sometimes years.
Yeah.
And then the divorce ends, and you're supposed to now co-parent these children. And you feel so angry at each other. You're starting out in a lose-lose situation. If you instead go to find yourself a mediator who is going to keep you out of litigation, or an attorney who's child-centered or a collaborative attorney, then you're going to be able to create an outcome that is more family-oriented, an outcome in which we understand that parents have to be respected and the children's needs have to be respected.
Absolutely.
And it can be done as peacefully and harmoniously as possible.
Right.
And there's help to do that. They create a team for you, so you could bring in a therapist if you need the extra help on that realm. You bring in a financial planner when you need the help to cover that aspect. And you bring in a divorce coach if you need help with just the day-to-day reality of coping. And when you have this team together, you're actually saving money, because the most expensive piece of the puzzle is the attorney and the litigation costs. When you're in court, those hours add up, and you do not get the outcome that you want. It is not a family-friendly environment.
True.
Nor do you want a judge who doesn't have a lot of time to get to know the various clients who are coming to court. For a judge to be making a light decision and making rules about who gets the children when, shouldn't that be in your own hands?
Right.
When you make a decision based on knowing your children, knowing your family, knowing your own work schedules,
yes,
you can create a flexible outcome in your parenting plan. And that's what we advise. So work with people who are child-centered. And again, we have a directory on the website at childcentereddivorce.com. And I'd be happy to help you find someone in your region if you need it. We just want to make sure that you're starting in the best hands.
Right.
And that's going to get you the best support. And then if you have a guide like my co-parenting program, Parenting Beyond Divorce, then it gives you the tips and the insights so that you can co-parent more effectively. Because there are ways of finding win-win outcomes to every situation. And one of the key questions to ask yourself when making any decision regarding divorce and your children is, do I love my children more than I may hate my ex? Do I love my children more than I may dislike my ex? If you ask yourself that before making a decision, it'll keep your decision on the cleaner side, focused on the well-being of the kids. Because what happens when you take the other route, you get into this tit for tat. You get into this thing where I'm going to hurt my ex and I'm going to show them. And the easiest way to hurt your ex is with the children.
True.
And too many families do that. That's where we see the headlines with these nasty, ugly divorces, where parents will keep the children from the other parent or limit their exposure or badmouth the other parent so that the kids start disliking it and being fearful of the other parent, telling lies, making up stories, controlling or manipulating the co-parenting so that the other parent doesn't have a say. All of those things may seem rational to you because you're angry, but it becomes self-defeating in the long run. because your children are paying the price.
We
don't want our children to pay the price.
Completely agree.
And all of us are focused on understanding the fact that forgiveness is a key pivotal part to making anything in life happen in a better way. When we're emotionally tied with anger and hatred and resentment to another person, so that our focus is on hurting them and getting back at them, then we're losing our connection with loving ourselves and loving our children.
True.
When we are able to cut that emotional cord and forgive, we don't forgive because of the other person. We don't forgive because of our ex. We forgive for our own well-being. Right. Because it means we can let go. And only when you let go can you move on.
True.
Because after divorce, there's a future ahead. You have the possibility of creating a happier life. You have the possibility of finding a healthier, loving relationship ahead, which means new parents for your children, step-parents, shared parenting roles, and that can be done in a very positive way, or it can be handled again in a negative way, and that's up to each of us to make those decisions.
Yeah. No, I completely so agree with you, because this is like working backwards, because if you've reached a point where you have decided to move on, I think we have to work backwards from the end point, that's the children's well-being, which is going to continue after. So we work back, because I've been a lawyer and I've been through some of these divorce cases. So I used to always, and it was painful, even as a lawyer, to see a third person who has no clue, except a rule book in front of him or her, to decide what was good and what was not. So we have a law in India which is divorce by mutual consent, where people can decide on their own the terms on which they would want to go through a divorce, and they don't go fight it in court. They just go there and they just say, we want it, and they're given a certain period of time, and then they just separate. But I used to find that if you don't need a lawyer or a judge to get you married, if you don't need a lawyer or a judge to have babies, you don't need a lawyer or a judge for you to separate. I think the two people should be able to do it themselves in the best possible manner. And I still believe that, it's just that maturity, that level of emotional intelligence is very necessary for us to be able to work backwards and look further ahead. Look forward to see what is going to happen to the rest of the things around us. And it's not just resentment, anger, and hurt that needs to go out at that point of time. So yeah, I'm very, very. I think you're doing a great job. I'm so glad to talk to you. Now, you've talked about this. Now, when we say divorce, you say life after divorce could be better. So that sounds interesting. That's like hope for people who go through something so painful. So is it? I don't live in an environment where people go out and speak about these things. So what kind of thing? I mean, people get remarried, dating, fall in love again, have new relationships, all those things
are possible. Let me first just state that we have to remember, when divorce is happening, that we need to be a role model for our children. They are watching us. Right. Even the very youngest, they are watching and learning from us. It's not what we say, it's what we do and how we do it. And our kids pick up. So when we choose to take the high road, when we choose a more mature decision, when we choose not to be vindictive and resentful, and choose instead to do what is in the best interest of our children from both parents, then our children get to learn to see role modeled a sensible, pragmatic, realistic way of handling conflict, which is going to happen in their lives.
Right.
If we handle conflict poorly, how can we expect our children to grow up and not be bullies and not be abusive themselves when we're role modeling deceit and anger and resentment? So that's very important to keep in mind.
Right.
And then we have to look and ask ourselves some very serious inner questions. What part did I play in this divorce? It's very dangerous when one just points the finger and says, my ex did this, and if it wasn't for my ex, life would be perfect.
Right.
You chose that partner. There was some reasons why you chose. what lessons did you learn? No matter how bitter and painful your divorce process is, I like to look at it as a gift, as a blessing, as a life lesson that I can learn from, and then I can move on in a healthier way.
Right.
So if we stop and say, what part did I play? What can I learn now? What am I looking for differently in finding a healthier new relationship ahead? That's going to start us in a different direction. Otherwise, and we see this too often, people will marry for a second or a third time in the United States multiple times, and they're not getting any different results because they're marrying the same type of person just with a different face. So we have to do the inner work, and we have to find out, why did I make a poor choice? Or why was I a poor partner? Or why did I allow myself to be manipulated and controlled and abused in my former relationship?
Sure.
And that's the time to stop and see a coach, a therapist, an educator, clergy, some expert who understands these issues and can help you. And I have digital courses on my websites. I have a website for women, womendatingafter40.com. That's 40.
Okay.
And mensdatingformula.com. And I have courses, online courses that you can take, men or women, to help you move on after a divorce, starting over, and what you need to do to feel good about yourself. Because
Sure.
if your self-esteem isn't high, you can't get out in the dating world and attract a healthy partner. You're going to find an abuser. And if
Sure.
you haven't handled anger issues, control issues, jealousy issues, and things like that, then you're going to become a poor partner again.
Sure.
And so you have to get some insight and get a deeper understanding of what makes you tick.
Right.
And once you get that help, you're going to attract a different person into your life. And then, of course, you have to be very, very careful before introducing your children to anyone new that you're dating.
Right.
Because your children have an allegiance to their other parent, and you don't want them to feel that they're losing their other parent in the process. So they need to understand that a new partner for you doesn't mean that they're losing their other parent. It just means that there's another new person in their life who's there to love them. A blended family can be a positive experience for children when handled well, and it could be a
Disastrous,
hellhole
yes.
if it's not handled well.
Right. No, I am so with you, and I think a lot of people would be able to relate to what you're saying in terms of the kind of help that people need at times like this. And I'm sure they'll go to your website and see what you're doing. And while I'm listening to, I think it needs a lot of internal work for us to be able to see where it went wrong. Because a lot of people don't always, like you said, point the finger at the person in front of them and say it's all because of him or her. And at the end of the day, I always tell, because through our coaching, I said, whatever happens, whatever, as disastrous as it is, just take 50% responsibility for it, and then immediately let the focus shift back to you and see where what
Yes.
difference could you make? Could you change your 50% and maybe things could just get better? So
The only person we can change on the planet
is ourselves, right. So
we can't go through life expecting other people to change
Agree.
for us.
Agree.
It never works.
Absolutely never works. So very interesting information, I think, very needed. Lots and lots of people, I think, while I was listening to you, if you could add to your repertoire stuff like dealing with pain, coaching on self-work, probably I could be a good part to play over there. So all those things are also, I think, very important at that point of time. So keeping the children in mind, taking it backwards and seeing, okay, how are the kids going to get affected? How could they go through this whole process of divorce and separation without a lot of resentment and conflict, so that the children are not burdened? I think what would be your last piece of advice for all of us to deal with this kind of conflict or a situation like this? And what would you leave us with?
Well, remember again, you are a role model for your children. So if you need help before you do anything with them, get that help. I'm a divorce and parenting coach, as well as a dating and relationship coach, and I'm available Other people are available around the world. The help is there. Reach out for it before you make decisions you'll regret. And as I stated in the very beginning, put yourself in your children's shoes before making any decisions, and that'll help you make better decisions. Ask yourself, do I love my children more than I may dislike my ex? And that'll help you make decisions that are heartfelt, coming from the right place, and that are family oriented. Because to me, divorce is just another stage. It's in our family. It's not the dissolution, the end of a family.
Right.
It's just a different form of the family.
Right.
And the family continues forevermore. And that's what we want our parents to understand and appreciate. Love your children and be the role model that they deserve.
Fantastic. So I think all the viewers who are watching, if you love your children, and I think you all do, so be that role model that Rosalin is saying that you should be. Remember, it's their life as much as it is your life, and you are responsible for them more than they are responsible for you until they're ready to deal with it as adults and they understand fully what is going on. Until then, it's your job to make sure that you be that role model, you be the person who takes care, you be the person who takes over and helps them lead through this in a proper way rather than in a way that hurts them forever. So thank you, Rosalin, very much. I look forward to invite you back one more time because I think we need this information much more. So that was Rosalin Sedacca, founder of the Child Center Divorce Network. ChildCenterDivorce.com is your website, right? And we're going to put that up all over there. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for sharing this information. I'm sure it's helpful. Help is around the corner. There are people out there who can help you. Think about the children. Think about yourself too, because I think you got to lead a life after this. It's not going to end here. And look forward to something better than what happened now. So don't stop there. Don't let it bog you down for the rest of your life. Don't let it bog your children down. So we need to get a little bit higher than what we are now and deal with it in a better way than we are already thinking through our anger and resentment. So thank you, Rosalin. You shared absolutely fantastic information. I hope to see you again and invite you back once again because this is something that we all need to know. Thank you.
Thank you so much.